Well, welcome back to Cityline. It is that time of year again for our Destiny City Film Festival. Please join me in welcoming Emily Nikita Alm. You are the founder and executive director of the Destiny City Film Festival. Welcome back, Emily.
Thank you, Amanda. Great to see you.
Great to see you as well. And you brought with you this special guest over here, Heather Pilder-Oslo. You are the producer of The River. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. All right, Emily, so here we go. This is the 8th year. First off, congratulations. You're past that 5-year mark. So you're on your way, whether you believe it or not.
That's true. I mean, here we are. We find ourselves in another year, year 8 for us, and we're thrilled to be in year 8, and especially in this new era of film and film festivals and digital events. And we're excited to be here for another year.
So Emily, into that, what do you hope your audience gets out of attending? And when we say attending, we're attending, of course, in our sheltering in place, stay at home way, the Destiny City Film Festival.
It's still the same goal we have every year. We really want folks to experience a new story and experience something someone else that they don't know has experienced, or a story they want to share, and really start to feel like they want to connect with community more. We believe that when we share our stories, we get better connected and we develop a better, stronger community. And we believe we can still do that even if we're not in person, by sharing these extraordinary stories through film and bringing them directly to folks in their living room.
So well said. So let's talk about this year in terms of the special events in this year's lineup. What can we expect?
We actually have more events than we usually have, which has been a great opportunity in the virtual era, being able to connect people from all over. Not have to all be in the same room to put on an event. This year we're doing 3 special events. They're all free. One is a panel event with young filmmakers, all in their mid-20s or so, who are out there making films, and we're going to speak with them about their experience. Another panel is focused on equity and access in film and how those impact folks' opportunities to participate in the film community. And finally, we're putting on a screenwriting logline workshop. We have 2 working writers who are going to be the instructors for the workshop, and folks can bring loglines that will potentially be worked on with the group. And so we're excited to present this variety of events that delve deeper into what goes into making a film.
So, Emily, how do you see art and film as being a catalyst for change? And Heather, I'm coming to you in just a second.
Yeah, Heather will be great for this question too. As we all know, art has been such a big part of developing culture and developing community over the years. I mean, forever. And with everything our country is has gone through, art is just even more important to share stories, to connect people with each other, to bring more cohesion and less divisiveness. And so film, I believe, is one of the strongest ways to do that. Such a visual experience, and it really brings you right into it, whether you know it or not. And so it really makes an impact on you. And can, inspire folks to make a positive change and take action in their communities.
So beautifully said. When we think about art being a catalyst for change, Heather, what's your point of view?
Well, that's a great question, and speaks to why we made our movie, The River, which is a documentary about homelessness, and it takes place in Aberdeen, Washington, on the coast. But part of it is filmed in Tacoma. We got some footage. There was an active lawsuit happening at the time, so we have some people gathering in front of the courthouse in Tacoma, and some other things taking place right there. I like to say film is the art form that combines every other art form. You take, especially when you're working on a narrative project, you've got music, you've got costumes, you've got actors, you've got writers. But with a documentary, I think that's also true. And when you've got a documentary that has a message, like we hope ours does, our hope is that this film is something that will open people's eyes, perhaps generate some conversations, and ideally maybe inspire some solutions. This homelessness is something that affects pretty much every city across the country in some way or another. And our goal was to give people who are experiencing homelessness a chance to tell their own stories, talk about how they got to be where they are, what their hopes are for the future, and then how do we as a community respond to that. So we're really grateful to be part of this festival. We're looking forward to being in other festivals, hopefully, and when we can actually meet in person or show films on big screens again, to actually combine this with events like Q&As where we can talk about the issue.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, boy, if you have picked a topic and a hot topic that is just begging for a talk back event. And, the film festival has always had those great talk backs where we got to sit and talk with you, Heather, afterwards and ask the questions that I'm so fortunate to ask now. Heather, where do you hope this film goes next?
Well, we're very hopeful. After we screen at Destiny City, we're still waiting to hear, but we're very hopeful maybe that we'll be part of SIFF, which is the Seattle International Film Festival. We're hopeful for Tribeca, which is in New York. We're hopeful for Austin, which takes place in Texas in the fall. And by then, if we're looking at October, November, December, ideally, maybe we'll be able to go in person. So we're waiting to hear back from several more festivals. We just signed to get representation with a company called Blood, Sweat, Honey, which is based in LA and Austin, Texas. And they will help us eventually get the film out to streaming platforms. So that will be great, because then people will be able to watch it on a platform, maybe like Hulu or Amazon or Netflix or something. And then we hope to also use it as an educational tool, take it to high schools, colleges, social work programs. There's so many opportunities where we could really have some good discussions and get people talking about the issue.
Heather, when I sit here and think about the pandemic, I think about, well, first off, I think about Black Lives Matter pandemic. I think about COVID-19 pandemic. Why did you land on homelessness as opposed to those other two? Because there's so much swirling right now in our society that we are having to take a long, hard look at. What was it that made you say yes to this subject?
That's a great question. And all of these things are worthy of documentaries and are having other films made about them. And there's so many ways all these issues intersect. We were talking just at the beginning of this segment about power being out in Texas. And my first thought when we had a big snowstorm here, my first thought, having made this film, is here we are fortunate at least to be inside. What about all the people that are sleeping outside in the snow or outside in all these cities where it's really, really cold? What do we need to do as a community to work on this? And because of the pandemic, homelessness in Seattle, where I live, and in Aberdeen and other places has increased. There are more people who are struggling and trying to figure out how to get adequate shelter. Our economy is very different now than it was. Even when we shot the film in 2019, the world was very different. So the way that the pandemic affects homelessness is multifaceted. It makes it all more complex. And this is, I think the thing that we all learned from making the film is that this is not an easy problem to solve. It's stated very well in the movie. There's not one pathway into homelessness, and there's not one pathway out of it. And every person's story is different. And that's one of the things that we wanted to show. So, I hope we can just find some common humanity. That's the place to start, and then look at how we're all connected and how we can work together to start to solve some of these really complicated issues.
So beautifully said, Heather. As somebody who has spent since 2019 living in this world, it does my heart good to hear you think about the snow and warming shelters and people who are out there. I think all we have to do is look outside our doors, and we have a chance to be a part of the solution big time. Mm-hmm. Emily, what has been the most exciting part of this virtual film festival, and what's been the most challenging part?
Great question. I'd say, this festival is just a whole brand new format. So it's been challenging in almost every way to figure out what works for us to present it and what works for our audience to participate. So, everything from technology to marketing, everything changes a little bit with a virtual festival. So we've had some challenges along the way, but we're excited about what we're ending up to share with everyone. I'd say the most exciting thing for me personally, and it kind of ties back to what we talked about earlier, is those filmmaker conversations that you usually have in person. We were able to record Q&As with filmmakers from all across the world, actually, this year. I had one with filmmakers in Turkey a couple weeks ago. And so we're including those conversations, even though it's not interactive with an audience, it's still an opportunity to hear from the filmmakers. We're including those as part of our program. And so that was really fun to get to talk to some of the filmmakers and being able to help shed more light on their story and their film.
So this is the first year that we have been virtual. So my question is, in this era of virtual film festivals, even major premieres, in your mind, after doing this for 8 years, what are some of the trends that you think are going to hang on after we're done with COVID?
I think people do miss the in-person part, so I don't think that's gone forever. I think, and with festivals, there will be some in-person element, but I envision it moving to more of a hybrid where you can be at home and watch some of the films, but you do have the option and the opportunity to go in person. I think that it's really opened up a world of possibility, which can be challenging, but is a positive thing too. It's enabled folks to share their films much more easily to a wider audience. And I think folks will want to continue that moving forward.
I agree. Absolutely agree. Heather, my advice do you have for any filmmakers who want to make a documentary about a topic that's important to them from their point of view and also to their community?
I mean, if you're passionate about the idea, I think that passion is contagious, and it's especially helpful. And I would say even essential when you're trying to do things like raise money. That's often the hardest part, especially for making a documentary, finding people that will support you. In our case, we were very lucky that we had people that were also passionate about the issue, and our crew, who all worked either for free or for very, very little compared to what they normally can work for. I think one of the things that makes our film compelling is that our director, Rick Walters, was himself homeless as a young man. And that's the reason I asked him to be part of this film. It was very personal for him. He did a great job, just getting people to tell their stories like no one else I know could have done. And so he deserves a lot of kudos for that. But if it means something to you, and if it's important to you, that comes across in every conversation. It comes across in every Kickstarter pledge and every post on social media and all of that. So, do something that I think is important to you and valuable to you, and that will come across in the making of it as well as in the film.
That is so beautifully said, because I can imagine that as you embarked upon this, when you started this, your whole life became consumed by this. So, as you said, make it something that you are passionate about because you're in and you're in deep. Is that correct?
Yes, especially if you're a producer like me, nothing will consume your life more. You know, the director has his window where he or she will operate. The producer is with the movie from the first conversation to the very last festival and beyond. So yeah, it's consumed my life for over 3 years now, and it will continue, and that's fine, you know. But you really have to be invested personally in order to just keep that momentum going. And with this issue, you know, it's really important. It's personally important to me and to everybody who was part of it. So we hope it'll make a difference.
Heather, thank you so much for dedicating so much of your life to this and making room for such a sensitive and vital topic that we have got to find a solution to. This exists because we allow it to exist, just like hunger. So I thank you so much for your voice in this film. And Emily, we've been showing the website, and I know that there are lots of great films in addition to The River that you have in store for us. So Emily, thank you so much for hanging in there for 8 years, for saying yes to your 8th year being virtual, because this is a lot of work. And I look forward to logging on and seeing all of the great things that you have accomplished. And thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up another great segment of Cityline. It is always truly a pleasure and a privilege to be in your home from mine. We've given you some wonderful things to think about. You know, we are still sheltering in place. We still are socially distancing. We're wearing our masks and we're washing our hands and we're keeping our gatherings small. Please continue to reach out to your neighbors, to your loved ones, to senior citizens who need help during this time. And when you do, come right back to us because we'll be waiting for you as always, right here on Cityline. Take care.
Tacoma, that's my home, yeah, Tacoma, that's my home. Tacoma, that's my home, place I call my own. Tacoma, that's my home, yeah, Tacoma, that's my home. Oh, you're from Seattle, oh, you're from LA, oh, you're from Chicago, but Tacoma's where you'll stay. Oh, you're from Seattle, Chicago, but Tacoma's where you'll stay, yeah. Tacoma